Are all people mentally ill?
I have no idea.
Is this the Dr. Ray?
I'm out of work. How do I find a job?
I don't know.
Boy, you hit the nail right on the head there.
Now, why would I say something so dumb?
I don't know.
I don't remember what I said. Help me out.
I listen to you all the time. You're my shot in the arm.
Well, it makes sense from your perspective and your individual brain.
And I guess that's true, but doggone.
Well, are you better than God?
No way.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
Oh, no!
Great stuff, Dr. Ray. I'm glad I called.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Doing a little bit of an assessment there, and it looked like about 50% of those bumper extracts were complimentary, and about 50% were negative. That seems to be my ratio here, about 50-50, which isn't bad. I mean, if I was a Major League ball player, it'd be by far the best that there's ever been seen. You know, you hit 300. If I would get 300 positive comments on my bumpers, that's Hall of Fame. Nice to have you here on The Doctor Is In on this E-Person Monday. We devote usually one day of the week to addressing the emails. I call them e-persons because I don't like saying email. So patriarchal, so linguistically insensitive. Males are targets now in our culture, absolutely, especially if you're a Christian male. So given that, I gently nod toward the language police and say e-person. And I have a stack here, and I also have some on my phone, so we will get to those. Maybe we won't. Maybe I will. I'm just assuming you're going to be with me on some of it. We'll get to it shortly. Somebody sent in a little text that said, Dr. Ray, have you ever played chess against a computer? Yes, I have. And the computer crushed me in about 9 moves. But that's okay, because I realized you have to pick the area of competition. So after the chess game, I picked kickboxing. Computer stood no chance. I won that one. There was a series not too long ago called The Middle. It was the adventures and the escapades and the day-to-day life of the Heck family. And Frankie Heck, and the husband's name was, blanking on it, Mike Heck. They had 3 kids. They had Axel, which is an interesting name for a kid, and Susu. Her name was Sue, but when she was at the hospital, there was some kind of mix-up, and her middle name also got to be Sue, so she was Susu Heck. And then her little quirky youngest one, although he was intellectually a genius, was Brick. One particular show, they were driving along in a car, and Frankie, Frances was her name, turned to Mike and said, Do you like any of the kids better than... No, I'm wrong. I got that wrong. Susu was sitting in the back, and she said, Dad, which one of us kids do you like better? Now, Frankie, sitting there in the driver's seat, was giving him facial vibes that said, don't answer that question. And Mike, more or less a straight talker, straight shooter, said, well, I'll think about it. I guess it would have to be Axel. Now, Axel was the oldest son. He was into sports. He was kind of and it's interesting because he was a sports hero at his high school, but he was a skinny little guy. I mean, he couldn't have been more than 135 pounds soaking wet, but he was their star running back, their great basketball player. And Mike was into sports, so he related more to Axel, and they played basketball against each other in the driveway, and they went to sporting events, etc., etc. Mike was tall. He was 6'5", 6'6". At that point, Frankie simply was aghast. Mike, what are you saying? And he just looked at her and kind of was dumbfounded. He said, well, I guess I just do more things with Axel. We kind of relate. And I want to piggyback on that and bring up the point I think it makes. You love your children equally. Some might be harder to feel love for, especially as they get older, but you love them equally in the sense that you're committed to them. If they're hurting, you'll do what you have to do to try to make it better. All of the deeper aspects of love are equally meted out across your kids. However, touching upon what Mike Heck said, it's somewhat unrealistic to think that you relate equally well or relate the same to each kid. Some kids are more communicative. They want to talk to you about a lot of stuff. So you know a lot more what's on their mind than you would another one. Some kids are more affectionate. You hug them, they hug you back twice as hard. Some kids, you hug them, and it's kind of like, oh, you're bugging me here, Ma. They all have their own personalities. And, however those personalities manifest themselves up as they grow older, touches upon the relatability factor. Relatability is not love. In our whole lives, we have people we relate easier to or more smoothly to or more likably to than others. That's life. That's how personalities mesh or don't mesh. It's unrealistic to expect that wouldn't happen in a family. Now, part of the problem here is it's not unusual for the kids to recognize, for example, that you might relate more easily to another child because that particular child reaches out to you more. Or that particular child is more mature in the way they look at things. Or that particular child is not a discipline problem at all. And the other kids look at this and their interpretation is you like them better. They're the favorite. I'm the victim. That's how they see it. That's their perception. It's not true. But they don't see it as a relatability issue. You relate differently to each one of the kids. Some are just easier to get along with. Some are more warm. Some are more communicative, and you can have long discussions with them about all kinds of stuff, and they ask you questions. Some want your advice. Others never ask for it. So Frankie Heck was aghast at Mike because he said he, in essence, relates better to Axel, the oldest. Sue, the daughter, phrased it in terms of which one of us do you like the most. And Mike automatically switched that. He translated like over to relate. That's normal parenthood. That doesn't mean you have favorites. You treat them all the same as best you can anyway, in terms of your expectations, in terms of your limits, in terms of your conditions. Yeah, you do all that. But in terms of personality blending, you just blend with some kids more so than others. It's just kind of the way it is. To Frankie, and I think to a lot of parents, especially moms, well, they think that's child-rearing heresy. That you would find it more easy to relate to one child than another. But that's not, it's reality. Anybody that denies that is just simply afraid of the implications of it. They would think it means I have favorites, or they would think it means I love one child more than another. Doesn't mean that. Reality of personalities. I relate to a whole lot of grown-ups in my life much more easily than I relate to others. Or I relate to certain grown-ups in my life much more comfortably than I relate to others. Some grown-ups in my life, it takes very little effort to get along with them. Very little. Others, it takes more effort. It's personality. Does that not exist when you're raising children? Especially as they get older. Their personalities really start to take unique shape. And if you were to graph it, it'd look like a scattergram of personalities. Don't be afraid of the relatability factor. The only danger is when that relatability factor drifts into a favorability factor. Then you're being unfair. I'm Dr. Ray.
Today's programming on Ave Maria Radio is brought to you in part by a gift from our day sponsor, Calvin Keller. Thank you so much for your donation to help build the church and bless the nations.
Now you can support Ave Maria Radio by becoming a day sponsor too. Send anyone a message, a friend, a family member, or a priest, just someone close by. Call 877-288-1077 and tell them you want to be a day sponsor.
Days following the school shooting in Texas that killed 19 children and 2 teachers, a Detroit-based freelance writer and proclaimed Catholic posted a meme of Robert Downey Jr. with an expression of relief on his face. The meme said, "Christians, when they find out no fetuses were killed in the mass shooting." I gasped at the sight. Then I prayed, asking the Holy Spirit to guide my response to her, which I knew I would do in a private message. I knew as a Christian I would be remiss if I did not respond to her. We're all called to speak truth in love and charity. We reach out privately and try to understand the other person. I did just that, and she responded within a couple of hours. I really didn't know what to expect, but she responded kindly and agreed to meet for coffee. She never did follow up to meet, but I do pray that my reaching out would get her thinking about her faith and the value of life. This has been a Christ-Centered Communication Message. I'm Vanessa Denha-Garmo, a communications evangelist and host of Epiphany.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Announcing again our popular St. Paul Mediterranean cruise and pilgrimage, visiting over 10 biblical sites. You'll never read the New Testament the same again after exploring Athens, Ephesus, Corinth, Thessalonica, Philippi, Crete, and the Greek Isles, and much more. Mass at Mary's House. Our luxurious celebrity cruise liner awaits you.
To learn more about your Ave Maria Radio trip, find the Ave Maria Radio Travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
Thank you for joining me here on E-Person Monday. Dear Dr. Ray, my son is going to turn 20 very shortly. Problem we have with him is that once he turned 18, he graduated, thinking one day he will become a millionaire. Well, all he's got to do is buy a house and let it appreciate, especially on the West Coast or Northeast and some of those high-priced areas, and yeah, he'll probably be sitting on a house worth $1 million, even though it's 1,300 square feet. My husband and I advised him to take a trade school. He did this a couple of months, and he got himself fired. Apparently, he didn't listen to his boss. He then worked as a cashier with a local supermarket, and he quit quit after 1 year. It'll be hard to become a millionaire, by the way, just bouncing around from job to job. Now he's trading stocks, investing what little savings that he has in stocks. Kind of day trader, going to make his money trading on stocks. He does nothing around the house. He doesn't even speak with us parents. Now, see, this is something I don't understand. You got a kid living at home who won't speak to you, and he's still living there? I don't understand that. Now, obviously, I can't tell you to not let him live there. That's your decision. But I don't quite understand why this is the current condition. My husband told him he should join the service, get benefits, etc. His reaction, I already have a job. Not even his best friend could talk him out of his trading, and he's focusing everything on his trading career. Mom says, he will not talk to me at all. We told him we don't support what he's doing, which is the day trading, and he will need to leave the house at the end of this month. What else can we do? I suffer a lot for him, but he's an adult now, and he needs to comprehend that money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah, I used to hear that one a lot from my dad. Raymond, you think that money grows on trees? Okay, Mom, I'm not in a position to tell you do this, don't do that. It's not my place. If you came to me as a therapist, we could talk about it in great depth. I can say this. What you decide as a parent is your decision. If you have a 20-year-old in your house who is day trading and he is going against the odds and making money doing it, and he's paying you rent, and he's cooperative and pleasant, you could probably say, hey, I like him here. He's great. Nice to have him around. That's not the picture that you're presenting. He won't talk to you. Now, my guess is he won't talk to you because he doesn't like hearing what you might have to say. You're probably pushing on him, prodding on him, and he doesn't want to hear it. He wants to do what he wants to do. He doesn't want to work, and therefore he is his own boss as a day trader. The problem is he's probably not making a whole lot of money, and I would guess that he's probably not giving you much for his support, and furthermore, he's not talking to you. Now, if you say this is an untenable condition, he either gets a job and is cooperative and pleasant, or he can't live here. You're very welcome to say that as a parent. Most parents, I got to tell you, I've said this so many times on this program, most parents delay that decision because they're afraid. They don't know what will happen if they give a condition and say, this is it. Here is what you need to do to live here. And if you can't, and by the way, the majority can't, or no, won't, then you must live on your own. They don't do that because they're too afraid. What will happen to him? Where will he end up? Will he self-destruct? Would he kill himself? Would he get into drugs? Would he go live with his girlfriend? All these things that they fear. So they endure. Until, and this is almost always what happens, the situation gets so ugly, and they're so tired, and so frustrated, so fed up, that they say, that's it. That is it. You're out. You're on your own. At which point, a certain percentage of the kids don't talk to their parents after that. Can't believe you did that to me. But here's the question that has to guide you, I think. Am I helping him or hurting him by allowing this pattern to continue? rude, uncooperative, drifting, living here, basically freeloading. Is this good that I'm allowing this? Now, in the end, Mom says, I suffer a lot for him. I can understand that. I can understand feeling very badly on a kid who's, because of his decisions, messing up his life. This is not a farm, and this is one of my favorite analogies, in 1880. If it were, he would have far less options. He couldn't day trade. Come on, was he no computer? What you going to day trade with? He said, that's not going to happen. He would be working on the farm, so for the most part, he would be there, and he would have been raised doing a lot of chores, a lot of work, and that would have just been part and parcel of his existence, and he wouldn't have resisted it. But so many kids are growing up, they have to do very, very little to carry any share of the load when they're younger, and by the time they become young adults, many of them just don't want to work. Or they don't sustain a work effort. They don't even have a work ethic. It's a work effort. So given that, there's a lot more of this situation now. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. That's one of the most common things that brings people into my office, which is trying to figure out how to motivate an unmotivated adult who is, by their decisions, making life more and more difficult and problematic and frustrating for their parents. So, this young man wants to day trade. Okay. Not necessarily, if you decide, Mom, to day trade at your house. I think she's dead, bless her heart. She goes, I'm not comfortable talking on the radio, and I'd probably talk too long. Our daughter, let's see, it's the middle daughter. Going through middle schools, a little bit of a tomboy, just like I was, said Mom. A handful of girls in the high school marching band started to identify as boys, and the teachers embraced it. I think psychologists need to put more effort into looking at the factors in this kind of imitation modeling. A handful of girls in the high school marching band. So it was one setting, all girls, and it's much more likely now that the girls have the gender identity issue than boys. It used to be boys, and it used to be far, far, far less. Okay. When the trans ideology hit our family, our older girls left the church. My husband and I had a new zeal for the faith. The girls believed that religion was the reason we did not embrace the trans identity, and therefore they wanted nothing to do with religion. Our middle daughter still lives with us. She goes to church. She will follow our rules. Our older daughter was in college, did not live at home, and barely talked to us. I am so angry with the schools and the culture for doing this with our children, and angry at ourselves for not paying attention. The relationship with our girls is still very wounded. Over time, it's gotten better. Okay. I feel like I'm just one of those callers who wants to tell my story and doesn't have a specific question, but how do I get my daughter back? Mom, you're going to have to explore what it is that made her think she wants to be a boy. What it is, what it was about all those girls that all sort of as a group decided they're gender confused. Talk with her. Ask her about it. What's happening? Ask her if she understands the future, what it means. Does she want hormone replacement? Because that's very dangerous medically. She's thinking of sex reassignment surgery because that'll alter her for the rest of her life. If she ever changes her mind, it'll be too late. So So you need to explore these with her. I'm sure you have. You've read some good books. So therefore, explore this with her. Find out. Thank you so very much for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. See what we got here. This is ePerson Monday. My daughter started working at a clinic that works with autistic children ages 2 to 9. She's told, I don't know who told her this, that autism is genetic. I truly don't believe this makes sense. I know there's a lot of research out there, but in my opinion, logically, it makes sense that vaccinations may play as a part. Well, more and more people are starting to lean that way, and even some in our health places in our government are starting to at least explore this. I stopped vaccinating some of my children because there were too many weird reactions. My daughter studied psychology for her undergrad, and they brainwashed her a bit. Well, I don't know what that means, but I can understand that if you go to a secular psychology program, yes, you're going to be much more likely to hear the culturally dominant ideas regarding sex, regarding relationships, regarding trans perspective, all of that. That's not unusual. Regarding the genetic aspect of autism, I've become convinced that something has to explain the explosion of the autistic spectrum diagnoses. One of the answers to that is, well, we're more aware of what it is, and so therefore we are diagnosing it more frequently. I do not believe at all, and I think there's indication to this, that this does not account for all of it. When I was in graduate school, autism was a serious, serious developmental disorder. Clearly, brain involvement, serious delays in language, social relations, peaks and valleys of developmental skills. I mean, it was serious stuff. Serious stuff. Oftentimes language didn't come for years and years and years. Over the last 15, 20 years, the idea of the autistic spectrum has become more prominent, and there are more quote-unquote high-functioning autistic children. In my early days as a psychologist, I did not see anywhere near as many parents with children diagnosed with some level of autism that I do now. I know many, many, many. Among my friends, people that I know, so many autistic children in various levels of functioning. Social struggles, intellectual delays, learning problems, sensory issues, all these things. And it truly seems to have exploded in frequency. Now, when this happens, ideologically speaking, the professional types should start looking into it. Start saying, what is going on here? Something is happening. My son is a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed at age 19. When I was a very young man, I knew one person that was a type 1 diabetic. One. I met my second one in my early years at the mental health center. Type 1 diabetes was rather rare. It was rather uncommon. A local children's hospital made the observation that some decades back they would see maybe one type 1 diabetic child per month. They made the observation that they now see as many as 10 per month. What is happening? Several of my children have asthma. Asthma is very common now. What is going on? Something has to be explored. Something has to be looked into to account for this. The fact that she was told it's genetic, there may be a genetic component in certain levels, certain kinds of autism. But to say something is genetic is so vague. How genetic? And from which direction? And how significant the developmental problems? So you can't just simply say it's genetic. You simply have to ask much more specific questions than that. Something is unknown in the explosion of autism. And it would behoove us as medical professionals, and I'm not a medical professional, it would behoove the medical professionals to really begin to explore components that could be involved in this. We're learning now that the environment and what it is about the changes in our environment and our food supply and our medicines that can interact in unknown ways with the human body, the human condition. And we're just starting to understand a lot of this stuff. Technologically, medically, we're galloping ahead, but we're generally behind in understanding the long-term ramifications of the things we've invented, the way we've changed the way we live, the way we've changed the way we eat, the medicines we take, all of these things. They've done a lot of good, but they can have unseen effects, unknown effects. Sometimes they don't start to show themselves. That's a big, big question waiting to be answered. Where are all these children diagnosed with some level of autism coming from? And it is not just he's a little quirky socially. Yeah, there's some like that. I've seen kids diagnosed like that I'd look at and say, well, pretty much in every aspect of measurement, he's pretty close to normal. I don't see too much here other than maybe some social problems. But there are too many of these children who have intellectual processing delays, real significant social struggles that are a function of not just things like inability or shyness or awkwardness. No. There's an inability to read social cues at a significant level. What is happening? We'll find out. I think one of these days we will begin to uncover this one. Dr. Ray, do you think your children were spoiled? I think most kids smell that way. That's been my experience. So just an answer to that, very quick email answer. This is ePerson Monday. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi. The program The Doctor is in Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. This particular variant of the program is when I take a little time to answer some of the e-persons that I get from folks. A lot of them come in from the TV show Living Right with Dr. Ray, where my producer says, we'd like to hear from you. So people send in some e-persons, and we use some of them on the TV show. Always keep them anonymous. You don't have to worry about that. Dr. Ray, I've been a listener for many years. I have a different spin on a common problem you frequently discuss on your show. All right, let's see what my spin is here. My wife and I have a great relationship with our youngest daughter, although she has drifted away from the church. When we're together, she's happy to go to church with us, but otherwise she doesn't go. Recently, she decided to move in with her boyfriend, a young man who we see as a potential husband. I'm very uncomfortable with this. She asked my advice, and I advised her against it, but she decided to go through with it anyway. When you first said here, I just read the first independent clause of that sentence, which is she asked my advice. My first thought was, yeah, she was asking your advice to confirm what she wanted to do anyway, what she was going to do anyway. And then when you said, no, morally, practically, relationally, this is not a good idea, she'd already kind of decided that's what she was going to do. So it really wasn't a matter of, Dad, I'm going to take into account significantly what you ask and say. I've already decided, and I'd like you to stamp it approved. When we discussed her decision, I told her that if she felt, and I would use the word think there, that if she thought she was prepared to make this kind of step, she ought to commit to becoming active in the church again. Okay, I think this is another one of those things where, well, that's not where I'm at right now, Dad. But we'll see, because I read these when they first come in, and I generally forget where they go, and I enjoy trying to figure out, in reading the first parts of the e-person, where they're going to end up. And here's where I was wrong. To which she agreed. She has made an effort to be active in the church again. Very good, very good. Wrong, you were wrong, Raymond. You mispredicted. My challenge is, how do I approach family vacations, etc.? I like the boyfriend. They want us to come visit their house. I don't know if I should. Do I have a responsibility to avoid the appearance of condoning their lifestyle at the risk of alienating both of them? I appreciate your thought, Dad. Well, Dad, I have addressed a question like this multiple times on this program, and I address it in my book, Family Faith Under Fire. I directly address this question, which is when you have a young adult who moves in with an opposite sex boyfriend, girlfriend. What do you do? Some parents will say, I don't approve. They're going to know I don't approve, and they're going to pay the price. They will not come to our house. We will not go to their house. They need to feel the consequences of what they did. Now, a parent can do that. Of course, there is a significant risk in that, and that is that the relationship will completely unravel, and you will have no ability to influence them in any way. Most parents choose some sort of middle ground, which is, they know I don't approve. I'm not going to go to their place, but they can come to mine. Or at family gatherings, they can come, but let's just not get too carried away with a huggy-kissy. So they put some kind of strictures on the relationship, at least as it is made public. Now, Dad here is asking, I like the guy, and my daughter is moving back toward the church. What do I do? He says he doesn't want to condone. Loving someone, loving them despite their ongoing sinfulness, does not condone it. You're not condoning it by treating the boyfriend very nice, by having an open, relaxed relationship with your daughter and her boyfriend. You're not condoning it. She knows exactly how you think. You've told her, and you raised her for 20 years. So this is no surprise that Dad, just because he treats the boyfriend well, is saying it's all okay with me, guys. You can all live together. You said some key things here, Dad. You said, one, it could be pointing toward marriage. And a lot of these do. A lot of these situations start out this way, and then they do move toward marriage, especially in your daughter's situation if she's moving back toward the church, which really kind of surprised me. I would have thought she's going to live with her boyfriend. She's going to say, well, look, I can't be part of the church either. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm already doing something that morally is wrong, at least as the church teaches it. And so therefore, what do I do going back to church? But no, she's saying, okay, I want to head back toward church. That's a wonderful thing. If it were me, and I've had this situation, I treat them both as best I can treat them. With as much kindness and love as I can treat them, with as much friendliness as I can treat them. Because I'm hoping and I'm praying that at some point this relationship is going to be made whole, well, morally through the church. And at some point, and here's the other thing, let's say that she breaks up with her boyfriend. And in the meantime, you have been very cold and distant, barely civil. Now that she's out of that relationship, is there a rift in your own with her? The main worry seems to be, will I be condoning this if I don't at least continue to give off some kind of signals that I don't approve of this? Don't misread what I'm doing to think I approve of this. I don't think you need to do that. It's probably pretty clear. And if she chooses to believe that, if she chooses to think, well, I thought my dad was really going to be uncomfortable with this, and I really thought it was going to be a problem. But, he seems to be accepting it really well. That's her misinterpretation. I don't want her to misinterpret it. Well, that may be the downside to trying to keep up a warm relationship for the future. Dr. Ray?
We'll return after these messages.
Over the last 70 years, Guest House has served more than 8,000 ordained and consecrated of the Catholic Church to provide lasting recovery from addictions and other behavioral health conditions. Support their mission at the 39th Annual Guest House Golf Classic, Monday, June 8th at Oakhurst Country Club in Clarkson. Registration includes golf on the 18-hole championship course, meals, and a silent auction. Corporate sponsorships are still available. Register by May 22nd at guesthouse.org. Food for the Journey's Sister Ann Shields.
Sometimes people will say to me, I try to follow God, but it's just too hard, or it's just too much, or I don't hear him, or I don't know him. And I always ask the question, how much time do you spend with him? How much time do you give God? Even if you start out giving God 15 minutes a day, first thing in the morning if you can, but 15 minutes a day, read his word, read the scripture readings for the Mass that day. But read his word and ask God to speak to your heart. He's going to draw you to himself. No wonder we're so harried and so distressed in so many ways. And I know there are external things, but when we trust the Lord, when we know we're not alone with our difficulties, we find a peace. Even in the middle of the storm, we can find a peace because God will share his own life with us. Really urge you, brothers and sisters, please, make God the center of your life, the center of your priorities. Let him be the determining factor for what you do, what you don't do, what your relationships are like. Let him be the determining factor, and you're going to know a peace and a happiness that the world, and no matter what the world throws at us, will not be able to take away from you.
Food for the Journey with Sister Ann Shields can be now heard on the audio archives page at AveMariaRadio.net.
E-Person Monday, let's take one more. Well, oh boy. In many cases, adversity can help faith grow, as we see and hear with the persecuted Christians in the Middle East. Yes and no. Where Christianity has been persecuted on a widespread basis, it tends to get crushed out. However, it does grow in little places with certain people. Yes, it does strengthen the faith of certain people. but it does have a widespread chilling effect on Christianity. I mean, look at the Soviet Union. I mean, Soviet Union was a Christian nation. In 1917, when the communists took over, little by little, they crushed out religion. And only since they've kind of taken their foot off the neck of Christianity, particularly Orthodoxy, has it started to come back. Now, one could say, well, it just went underground. Yeah, some of it I'm sure did. But I think the overall public expression and embracing and freedom of evangelization, and especially in some of the Middle Eastern countries, it's just not allowed. Right? Okay. What else here? Are we seeing in the United States, where we live securely and comfortably, that faith wanes or does not grow? Yes. 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 It is easy to get very comfortable with our secular lifestyle. We generally have it much better than any society, across the board now, than any society in the world's history, materially, opportunity-wise, freedom-wise, ability to pursue one's own interests-wise. Yes, it's beyond comprehension what we have here. And I think that makes it very easy to be distracted away from religion, distracted away from that which matters in the long run. Of course, I see that as a big factor in the younger generation just abandoning religion in such numbers. They've been raised very, very comfortably as a group. Now, but Dr. Ray, they haven't. They've had all kinds of emotional and distress problems. Yes, I got that part. But I think that's a byproduct of the way they were raised. Many of them were raised so very, very comfortably. And I'm not saying don't raise them comfortably. I'm saying it's just a factor in their being raised the way they were. Number one thing I'll hear, for example, from small business people is I can't hire people. There's nobody wants to work. How did that happen? Well, one of the ways it happened is that you didn't have to work when you were a kid. You didn't milk cows. You didn't have to throw wood into a wood-burning stove in the middle of the night. You didn't walk everywhere you went. You didn't. Now, life was hard. But I think it made for sturdier people. Now, I'm not calling to go back to that life because I'm a sissy myself. But I'm saying it's just a byproduct. And it affects religion. Deeply, it affects religion. I read a wonderful, wonderful article by a young woman actually, from a foreign country where they have it very difficult. And she came here and she wrote an opinion piece for some publication. And her theme was, our young people have never known it any other way. As a group now, obviously, come on, this is a generalization. But they've been very comfortable. They've never had to worry about so many of the things that in other cultures and other nations the young people worry about. And so as a result, they become more easily discontent, more easily frustrated, more easily not wanting to exert themselves with effort. Why? Well, because I've just gotten used to being comfortable. I just want to be comfortable. I want to chase entertainment. I want to chase what I want to do. It's a component. And yes, and that component definitely affects embracing religion. When you have to strive in your life to exist well, naturally strive. You have to, because you have no choice. There's still people who strive now, but in many respects they've decided to strive. But for much of human history, you had to strive to exist. And as a result, I think that created a mindset that was more willing to look beyond the moment into something further out, something bigger than oneself. So yes, that's my answer to that question. And with the answer to that question, I'm leaving. I thank you so much for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. Andrew Kruchek, my producer man, who handles everything over there in Ann Arbor as we cooperate with the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network to produce this program. It's a delight to be with you. Hopefully we give you a few thoughts here and there. Pack in your toolkit, your mental toolkit to live better. The best one to put in your toolkit is to walk with God.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.